All right, check and replenish water supply, fuel, battery, water, sand, or wheel flange lubricator. Item 2A, water supply. Fill the cooling system with clean soft water or with the correct antifreeze solution. Temporary temperatures below freezing are likely to be encountered. Water used in the cooling system should be soft as free as possible from the scale from minerals. If possible, to obtain soft water, treat the available water with some commercial water softener. 2B, fuel, diesel engine. Give the diesel engine its detailed inspection and lubricate all parts directed under the LO 55127L 127.79. Fill the main fuel tank. Take care of that no water, other foreign substances are emitted with the fuel. Refer to the lubrication order. Battery water. Adding water. Adding only approved distilled water to the cell sufficiently frequently intervals to keep the electrolyte level above the top of the splash covers. When adding the water, fill 1/8 of an inch below the bottom of the cover, and filling the tubes no higher. Careless addition of the water above the high level of the points result in substantial overflow of the electrolyte having through the venting openings, providing the vent plugs from the normal gas escapes. C, an overflow of the electrolyte lowers the gravity, reduces the battery capacity, rots the wood trays, damages the battery component, and also causes the corrosion, troublesome grounds in the electrical circuit, and eventually necessitates the removal of the batteries from the gravity adjustment of the repairs of the damaged parts. D, the amount of water that is used in the good indication of the battery receiving the current amount of the charge as general remove the battery ill good condition using more than approximately 1/2 the inch of water per month is receiving too much charge. E, if the use of less than approximately 1/4 of the inch per month that is not receiving the sufficient charge of the locomotive its daily service. F, all cells should be required the same amount of the water if one cell takes more than water than other than examining it for leakage. G, always take the hydrometer readings before the adding water. H, the time of the adding of the water is important to the ill cold weather. When it's cold, adding water just before the locomotive goes into the surface so that the charging current will mix water with the electrolyte. If the water is added with the battery left standing in the freezing temperatures, they will freeze in just the same as it would outside of the battery, resulting in impossible damage by breaking the hard rubber jars and containers. I, approved water in this is that which has been analyzed periodically found to be safe in the storage battery used and approved that the water drawn from the tap allowed it to run few movements before using water should not be transported stored in any metallic vessel except for the ones made of lead, glass, earthenware, rubber, and receptacles that have not been used for any other purpose or satisfactory. Item 2, sand. Flow of sand. The flow of sand can be adjusted by the nut moves in an air nozzle either farther into out of the sand trap. The sand control valve should be checked and cleaned annually as condition required. The inspect of the cup washer, O-ring, composition rubber valve to replace if necessary. Inspect the sanding jets. Make certain that they are not plugged. Examine the vent port for the bottom of the actuating cylinder. Make certain that it is not plugged. Check the spring. Replace it if weak. Clean all parts thoroughly. Place in a small amount of air brake oil of the cup washer, zero O-ring, and composition rubber the valve before the assembly. Alright, the wheel fans lubricator, I got nothing on that. The item 3, horn, bells, and lights, and windshield. Whistle, bells, and sanders, the MO train signals. Whistles, batch locomotive will be provided with a suitable whistle as equivalent located so that it will be operated convenient by the arranger to deliver the sand on the rails in the front of the wheel contact. I am come in contact with the wheel. From the customary position in the Sanders sandpipe must not be fastened securely. Will be tested for each trip. Headlights in the sandboxes, bell, whistles, headlights, sandboxes, bell, balls, whistles will be located in the accessible places where the locomotives are equipped. The overhead of the current collectors as might and be sandboxes will be located with the construction arranged so that they may not be given in the necessary repairs with the intention with requiring of the person to mount the roof and before expose the contact of the parts of the carrying high tension of the electrical current. The train air signal system. The train air signal system will be tested before each trip and maintained in a safe, suitable condition for service. Alright, moving on to the part drawing. This is a light indicator. The group is electrical accessories, your lights, your bell, assembly drawing. From now on, it's pretty much going to be all assembly drawing in a couple of paragraphs. This is your bell assembly drawing. Check your bell assembly drawing and lube it. Valve safety warning bell. your bell engine system warning bell, your horn assembly, your valve sim horn operation, your valve horn operating. Uh, those were your horns. Item 4, brakes, equipment, sanders, and shutters, etc. So these are stand brakes. Here is the group of 7 sanders. This part right here is the control for the sander. The valve sander control broken down. Continued. The valve sander controller. The housing bracket of the sander. The sandbox itself. And the sand system piping sheet 1 and sheet 2. Here's their assembly listing drawings. Item braking equipment. Here's your handbrake, your valve automatic brake. This is part 1. Your valve automatic brake part 2. Valve automatic brake part 3. With the assembly drawings 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Alright, this is your valve independent valve brake. This is goes for the group of the braking air grouping. Items to be checked. Valve independent brake, V6 NFR distributing safety valve. More safety, the valve 6 NFR distributing safety valve. Assembly list drawings continued. The number 8 valve. Simply air. Starting with your braking assembly. Checking your braking assembly. After you do each of these valves, if you were to test them or replace them singly, you have to do a straight air brake test every time, or it could be harmful to you, breaker personnel. Valve A1 charging cutoff pilot valve, your valve H5 relay valve, your valve emergency brake valve, your valve strainer and check. Your valve number 24 double check. Your cutout cock and strainer. Your valve check rubber seated. These are still brake. These show the different cutout cock balls. Still in the air brake system. Your cylinder brake. The assembly drawing. Assembly list to the left, if you haven't noticed. Your reserve air, your free filter air center, we'll go back, filter air central figural primary, and your air brake system air grouping, train line hose fittings, and you got your hose air brake gasket, hose air brake, main reserve air brake actuating, gasket coupling, and your hose air brake. Item 5, cooling fan and drive. Alright, I'm gonna read you the cooling. You can get these ones, these task covers. I did the BB160 model. Those are posted on the YouTube. But from now on, we're going to continue with the item cool. You're going to be checking the cooling fan assembly, remove, repair, installation, toolkit SC49497CL E12 grease, equipment reference, paragraph 3.7, condition description, engine hood removed. The book is in the top right corner. Warning, prior to performing a cooling fan maintenance, make sure the battery switch is in the open position and tag, or battery fuse removed. That is to prevent the engine from being started with the person that are working on the engine components. Place the battery switch in the open position, remove the battery fuse, remove the 4 bolts, lock washer, flat washers, remove the 4 bolts, lock washers, remove the flexible fan drive coupler shafts and halves, you remove the 8 bolts, flat washers, remove the 10 bolt flash washers, remove the engine fan shrouds. Remove the 6 bolts lock washer from the fan, remove the fan from the drive shaft, remove the 10 bolts from the flat washer, remove the 4 bolts from the flat washer, remove the drive shaft from the mounting brackets, remove the bearing shim, remove the thickness of the shims taken from each of the mounting bracket. Also, continuing on, the same page, now you see the assembly drawing of the fan and the cooling system. Loosen the set screws, the 21 press the flexible flange drive, the 22 from the drive shaft, remove the key in the drive shaft from the drive shaft, and lose the 4 screws of the bearing retainers, as the pillow blocks and bearings from the fan drive. The shaft, lubricate the bearings with grease, and replace the repair damage as is required. Alright, the installation press the assembled pillow blocks and the bearing of the drive shaft, tighten the 4 screws on the bearing of the retainers, install the key of the flexible fan drive coupler in the drive shaft, and refer to step 12 with the thickness of the following of the bearing shaft to 20, install the shims on each of the side of the mounting brackets, install the assembled drive shaft on the mounting brackets, install the 4 washers and bolts, and please flexible drive and the coupler, the drive shaft tighten the screws, install the 10 washers, bolts, and through the engine coupler, and install the 4 fan and drive shafts, and the 6 lock washer bolts in the fan, the engine fan shroud, and the fan flat washer bolts, and the engine flat washer, the bolts. And flexible, the fan drive and the coupling of the shroud shroud have the 4 lock washers, the bolts, and for all the 4 lock washers, flat washers, and bolts. Alright, item 6, couplers, locks, and levers. Here is your coupler. It shows the coupler. You either have your A, B, C, D, E, F, or G coupler, depending on if you're knockdown fleet or in America. Shows the coupler, the pin counter, the head, the loop lifter, flange pin, bushing, coupler, pin straight, the thrower, the lock, the knuckle, the nut, hex, washer, screw, and hex head, yoke. This is your cutter lever. It shows the cutter lever with the washer bracket lever with stops, left and right handed with the cutter key, pin lifting, nut, washer, screw, retainer, and lever uncoupling center of the clevis. Item 7, the brake rigging and pins. True 07 of the trucks. The brake rigging of the trucks are not subject to the routine maintenance of the inspection. The periodic cleaning and the lubricating is required with the inspection worksheet scheduled with lubricating orders, badly worn and wear. Placed on the journal box of the pedal stoles can be renewed without removing the wheel, the axle assembly, but better than the job can be done assembled in the removed and allowing the wearing place to be clamped tightly into place. 1. Inspect the apparent damage of maintaining the casting such that the cracks and transform the bolsters, etc. 2. Inspect all the bolts and nuts and other fittings of the tightness, and 3. Inspect the center plates and the side of the wearing of the excessive wear and the clearance between the frame with the side bearings as the load of the center plate is worn and may be needed replacing replace or shimming. Inspecting the springs of the indicated with the weakness, the crack of the broken leaves, check the swing of the hangers for the excessive wear at the upper and lower ends. 6. Inspect the pedestal liners, and the brake rigging must be inspected thoroughly each day of the inspection. Brake levers, bushings, and clevises must be maintained with good condition wear, and the damage may not be corrected immediately. If inspected personally and are unable to correct the trouble at once, report and not sire the authority must be made. 1. Levers and pins and bushings have been worn, and the brake travel can no longer be taken up with the turnbuckle. Adjustment of the brake pull rod may be shortened and moving the pin into the secondary hole of the rod, and when it becomes necessary to move the pin to the third hold to maintain piston travel, all parts should be replaced, and the brake adjustment should be done with the time of the when maintaining reserve air pressure is pumped. The braking adjustment release the handbrake set with the locomotive brakes and playing with the independent brake valve with the control of the brake cylinder piston travel should be in accordance with the standard operating with the practice adjustment usually as are unnecessary when traveling with exceeding 2 inches for each of the piston. C. When making adjustments on the brake rigging when inspecting the under parts of the locomotive, it is always good practice to block the wheels of the locomotive to prevent any possible movement. Items 8, brake shoes and brake cylinders. This is your brake rigging adjustment, model 1480, brake rigging ABCs. What to do if person travels short. Brake shoes to replace would be A, section A. So I'm going to read section A. Alright, so we're going to read section A real quick. How to replace the brake shoes. Replace 1 or 2 shoes, remove the old shoe, apply the new shoe. Do not move any of the brake pins. Replace more than 2 shoes of the barb of the brake with the help before removing any of the shoes. Insert the block between the shoe and the wheel. Apply the brakes on the hand and or release the place with any brake shoe clearance with permit the block with repeat until all shoes have been changed. Do not move any of the brake pins. If 6 to 8 more shoes are to be changed, then may quickly disconnect the actuating lever figure in the A1 of the control rod of the figure 2 in order to create all necessary slack at the one time. To do this, the multi-flows remove the actuator lever of the control from the removing of the brake pin, replace the pins to Connect the rigging, apply with the release of the handbrake, apply with the new shoes, replace the actuator lever of the rod. 2 inches of the brake shoe can be used and replace an original 1.5-inch shoe without any manual adjustment. Is in most cases in the screw extension dimension with X exceeds 19 inches, it will be necessarily length of the brake end of the backing out of the thread welding tail figure, but not remaining unthreaded. The engagement must not be less than 1/3 of an inch. Alright, your foundation brake gear. The foundation brake gear will be maintained at the standard for the locomotive levers, rods, and brakes and beams. The hangers and pins will be fouled, but the ample strength will not be fouled in any way which will affect the proper operation of the brake. All pins be properly secured in place with the cotters and spit keys and nuts, and the brake shoes will be properly fastened in place and kept approximately in line with the tread of the wheel. B. Piston travel, minimum brake cylinder piston travel will be sufficient of the brake broad brake shoe clearance when the brake shoes are released. Minimum brake cylinder piston travel when the locomotive is standing, but must not exceed the following: driving wheel brake, the 6 inches swivel type of the truck brake will brake more than one truck of the operated one brake 7 inches. The brake cylinder 7 inches. The swivel type of the truck brake equipped with this one brake cylinder 8 inches. Swivel type of the truck brake equipped with 2 or more brake cylinders 6 inches. This is a diagram, a part assembly drawing of a cylinder brake. And this is another one showing your brake cylinder, your removal, cleaning, disassembly, cleaning, inspection, repair, and assembly, and installation. Dry cleaning solvent and brake cylinder grease will be used. You also have the same toolkit as used like in many of the other ones. So micrometer, inside micrometer, and your personnel is required to remove the stationary brake test shall be performed before removing. When removing the repairing of the brake, the following the components: check the airlines pipe with the corrosion brakes and the splits, loosen the connection, repair the airlines of the pipe, and consisting with replacing the defective pipelines in the connections preferred to TM55 2210 223 24P identification piping. Remove the 2 cotter pins and 2 pins 1 and 2. 2. Remove the 4 bolts from the flat washer for the disconnect the airline. 3. Remove the 4 bolts 6 and 7 of the lock nuts of the brake cylinder. 9. Disassembly. Remove the cotter pin 10 of the push rod of the pin holder pin 11 to the push rod 12 from the cylinder. 13. Remove the 4 bolts of the 4 bolts 14 bolts 15 and piston assembly. 16. Disassemble the piston assembly. 16 by the following: separate the packing cup 17 and the filter wipers. 18 from the piston assembly. Not 16. Remove the gasket. Piston assembly must be repaired at the depot level maintenance facility. Cleaning and brake inspection. Dry cleaning of the PD 680s is toxic flammable. Wear protective goggles and gloves. Well used only in well ventilated areas. Avoid contact with the skin, eyes, and clothes. Do not break the vapors. Do not use near open flame and the excessive heat. The flash points between with 100 138 degrees Fahrenheit. If it does it get the fresh air, the medical aid immediately. If contact with the eyes is made, with wash your eyes and get the medical aid immediately. Compressed air used for the cleaning purpose will not exceed 30 psi. Do not use directly compressed air against the skin. Use of goggles or full face shield. Use the dry cleaning solvent to remove the dirt and the grease from the metal parts. Dry clean with the compressed air. Inspect the metal parts with cracks or breaks. Replace the damaged parts. Inspect the rubber parts with the crack of the brakes and flatten with debris. Beads replace with the damaged rubber parts. Use the brake cylinder lubricating or push rods, packing rod, cup, and walls of cylinder assembly. The bevel side of the belt wiper should be face piston assembly. Be sure the packing of the cup of the air bubbles. 11. Install the belt wiper, the packing cup of the piston. Install the gasket and cylinder. 10. Note: before the installation of the piston assembly, be sure the packing of the grease of the cylinders are coated with the grease, and with the strainer cylinder, the head is installed. Be sure the strainer is at the bottom. Install the piston assembly into the cylinders. Secure the 4 bolts and nuts. Assembly. Install the push rod of the holder and the pin and secure with the cotter pin installation. 10. Install the brake cylinder, secure the 4 nuts and block washer and bolts. Connect the airline and secure with the 2 bolts and the washer. Install the 2 pins and secure with the 2 cotter pins. Test the brake cylinder by the following: using air supply supports with a cutout cock and the gauge located between the cutout cock and the brake cylinder and the connection brake cylinder. Charge the brake cylinder at least to 45 psi. Hold for 30 to 15 seconds. Use the cutout cock and turn off the air supply. Check that there is no pressure in the dropping in 5 seconds. Items 9: cab heater and standby heater. You're going to be checking these lines. Check the heater assembly engineers. This is the heater assembly drawing for the heater. Your heater lines and hoses for fitting. Check those for cracks or damages. You also continue with the heater lines of the detail A and detail B. Check those. Check your heater lines and hosings. You also heating lines and hosing 3 and 4, C and D detail, C and C, C and D. Heater line and hosing number E detail, F heater lines and hosing. 10. Your item footboards and grab iron safety devices. Check your engine device, your engine doors, engine access doors. These are assembly drawings of the group of the body of the engine, body group. Your handrails, cover levers, steps, cab doors and locks, door side compartments, electrical equipment cabinet door. Item 11, loose electrical wires. Check the electrical wires connected for the cracked or broken insulation, bare wires, and loose broken connectors. Item 12, bolts and nuts and pins. Check the bolts and nuts and screws for the obvious looseness or missing, bent or broken condition. Do not try them all with a tool, but look at for chip paint, bare metal, or rusted around the bolt head if you find one in loose report. Alright, now I'm going to give you the part breakdown structure of all the hoses and belts. These are actually these part drawings with the assembly list are actually a couple different motors put together, like locomotives put together. So you'll have your blower traction belt, which is number 3. Your group battery changing alternator belts. Your belt item number 6 is the belt of the fan motor to the battery charging alternator. This is your belt cooling fan. Your item number 9 is the belt to the cooling fan. You have your belts to the air compressor. Alright, now we're moving on to all the hoses of the belts. Your heater line filling hoses, heat lines and hoses, heater fitting. Your items 4 and 6 of the hose of the assembly of the sander. Your items to the your items 1, 2, 19, 21, 22, 24, and 25 hosing to the cooling system. Your item hose, water filter hoses, and clamps. Your fuel tank hoses and level gauge. That would be number 5 and some other ones. Alright, your hoses for the brake line. Alright, now we're moving into item 14, your fuel and lube system. You want to check the lines and fittings, nut washer screws, clamp hose, fitting hosing, pickup hose, return elbows, and end figures for the fuel line. Line figures. Remember, there's 2 different fuel systems. This shows another fuel line fittings with the nut, washer, clamp, nipple, elbow, union fitting, hose fitting, screw, clamp, elbow, street hoses making. This year is the switch emergency fuel cutoff, screw pan head, wash plate, screw washer switch, another assembly drawing for your switch emergency fuel cutoff, or solenoid emergency fuel. The part assembly drawing, switch emergency shutdown, your fuel tank level gauge, your tank fuel, or your fuel tank. This is your sight glass assembly. I think I made 2 of them. I forgot to put that up there. I was going to put them up in the water checking. Alright, continuing. Alright, you're going to check for leaks in the cooling system. You got your hoses and your clamps. This goes with the cooling system. I'm not sure what part it goes with. These are hoses and clamps. You have your shutter assembly. Your valve, magnetic valve of the cooling system. Your fan assembly to the cooling assembly. Your radiator cooling. And leaks in the cooling system from the hose or clamps into the radiators. Your belt fan with the cooling fan, a cooling fan assembly, another cooling fan assembly, heater in the engine block heater cooling, radiator cooling, leaks in the intake exhaust system. You're going to look around the belt traction motor. You're going to look around the blower traction motor assembly, air compressor assembly, valve intake exhaust holders, your intake manifold, your air cleaner intake. These are pictures of the blowers and a cross section of a blower. Your air turbocharger line out. This is all I could find for intake and exhaust. Your exhaust system, muffler, and engine pipe. There's a couple different ones of those. I didn't show them all. Your items, wheel, and journals. Your toolkit SC494 CL1112. You'll need some electric tape, a wheel turning machine, a Model 12. This is tells you how to repair a wheel. Before the wheel turning, recording to perform rim thickness, flange thickness must be measured to determine the result, and then meeting Association American Record specifications. Inspect the wheel wear for sharp flanges, shadowing, cracks, flat spots. With very good of the tape of the wheels. I don't think the maintenance is really important, but we're doing inspections. This is continued. Wheel journal pads. 11/16 drain moisture from the air reserves. Removal, inspection, testing, installation. The components of this are heavy, awkward, and handle carry the procedure indicating remove the air reserves, check the air system, drain small air reserves, air system removed from the following same procedure used in the main air reserve. When removing only, repair the brake valve components, check the airline's pipe for the corrosion, check brake splits, loose connection, repair airline's piping consisting of replacing defective pipelines in the connection TM55 2210 2224 pipe, identification pipe. The two main air reserves both are removed in similar manner. Place a suitable lifting device at each end of the main air reserve, disconnect the unions 2 and 3, tag disconnecting electrical leads, remove electrical conduit, replace the two cap screws, lock washer, remove the automatic drain. Your main air reserve, remove the two nuts, lock washer, cap screws, move the two nuts, lock washer, slowly lower the main air reserve, set up the wooden and two support straps. Dry clean with PD solvent, compress air with cleaning, use dry cleaning, remove the dirt and grease from the exterior air reverse dry cleaning with compressed air inspection. Inspect the reserve for cracks, breaks, or other damage. Replace if the damage of the cracks are apparent. Test main air reserve by the following: seal one end of the reserve and apply the source of the air to the other end of the air reserve. Inspect the exterior of air reserve leaks. If there are any leaks, replace the main air reserve system according to the FRA 22931. Stencil date of the testing of the main air reserve surface with white enamel. Installation: use suitable lifting device each end of the reserve. Raise the main air reserve to the local one. Install the two steel port straps and secure the two lock washers nuts. Cap screws, lock washers nuts. Do not tighten. Position the automatic drain valve with the main air reserve. Install the two lock washer cap screws. Connect the electrical conduit. Connect electrical leads. Remove the tap. Connect the unions 3 and 2. Tighten the nuts 11 and 8. Continue with intercooler assembly. And your aftercooler. These are the engine cool group. Engine group. This is an aftercooler. The following items are not featured in the drain air box. Check operation of the crankcase. Unusual noises, friction arms are operated with the clutch, the turntable, boom, hoisting brakes, or rollers, or pins, cables, sheaths, and hooks, and bucket, and transmission.